It's the end of the year, and so today we're having a year-ender featuring the highlights of 1998 on Austin Faith Dialogue. Please join us.
Austin Faith Dialogue, at the crossroads of religion and life. A series highlighting the cultural and social interactions between the worshiping and religious communities in and around the capital city. Austin Faith Dialogue is brought to you by the Austin Metropolitan Ministries in cooperation with KXAN. Join us now in Austin Faith Dialogue.
Hello, I'm Richard Thompson of Austin Metropolitan Ministries, welcoming you to this edition of the show. And today we're being joined by my co-hosts on the show that will be highlighting the 1998 programs. And I'm going to let you folks introduce yourselves.
Sure. I'm Sandy Wilder. I'm with Houston Tillotson College.
And my name is Shane Whistler. I'm the associate pastor at St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church.
Well, I want you folks to know, first of all, how grateful I am that you have shared with me the hosting of these programs, not only of the past year, but in times before that. And the 1998 programs, though, had a special flavor of their own. I mean, they still do our four main purposes on the show, which is faith traditions and social issues and pastoral personal issues, and then the cultural issues as this interfaces with Austin community. But as we look at beginning with the faith traditions, you had a special series this year, Sandy.
Did a three-parter, which I suppose made history for Austin Faith Dialogue. But it's because the subject was so interesting. There was so much to cover. Mm-hmm. It was a show with Reverend Bruno Schmidt. He's pastor emeritus at First United Methodist Church here in town, and a real expert on the history of Austin churches and Austin church architecture. So we spent 3 shows taking a look at his collection of slides and having him talk about what he knows about Austin religious history. Okay. We've got a clip of that right now, right?
Right. Well, let's take, I think this was from your first in the series.
Yes.
Continuing slides would show us some things. This is a picture of the very first Roman Catholic church that was ever built in Austin. It was known as St. Patrick's, and it was erected in 1852, the same year that our old Capitol was built, which later burnt down. If you look at this picture closely, you can see over on the left-hand side there is our new Capitol. It was still standing there. But then in a later year, I think it was 1859, this church was dismantled, and Father Felton led in the building of what became St. Mary's Cathedral. And that, okay, as you may see in the next slide, is shown here. It was dedicated, as you see it there, though it does not have yet the steeple. That was added later. And it became the center of the Austin Diocese, which involves some 30 different counties here in our state, and which are supervised by the bishop, who has his chair at the, that's what after all cathedral means. It's the chair church of the bishop.
Okay, Sandy, tell us about why you enjoyed doing that.
I enjoyed that as, first of all, a longtime Austinite. I didn't know that much history about the churches and church architecture in Austin, but also enjoyed the fact that we have still here in Austin a living resource in Reverend Schmidt, and enjoyed the opportunity of bringing him to the Austin public. I hope a lot of people videotape those shows.
Mm-hmm. And as you watched that, Shane, did you learn something you didn't know before about?
Yes, even only having moved to Austin in '91, I still love the history, and wanted to ask, when Reverend Schmidt started his ministry, was he a long-time Austinite clergy?
I think he has been, yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's a resource for us all at this point in time. Now, in the fall, I did an interview with people of 3 different faith traditions. There's an interreligious commission that Austin Metropolitan Ministries has to keep dialogue going between different faith groups, and this had a Hindu, a Jewish temple member, and someone from St. Austin's Catholic Church. So I think we'll look at this and then have a chance to visit about that. In all faith traditions, at least the ones that are represented here today, this interaction, this inseparability between spirit and work, spirit and justice.
Absolutely.
And the one other thing that there's an image that comes to mind as you all have talked. I think you all have mentioned, used the word walk, crop walk, walk the walk, and that my guess is that in Hindu teaching there is a reference to walking as an expression of spirituality.
There's a beautiful verse that says, Jo tu dhave ekapaga tome dhau sat. And it's, if you walk 1 step towards me, towards God, I walk 60 steps towards you. And Barsanadham is all about teaching that pure love of God. And in our Hindu religion, we have many different branches of Hindu religion. The beauty of Barsanadham is that it brings everyone together. India itself has many different diverse cultures within it. But Barsanadham is a place where everyone comes together to worship the one God.
So walking is a metaphor.
Walking is a metaphor.
Okay.
Walk 1 step towards me,
All right.
and I walk 60 towards you.
All right. Well, we can take that with us.
Yes. It's
And-
a beautiful,
and-
beautiful image.
In Hebrew scriptures, you've got walk humbly with your God.
Absolutely, yes.
Do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly. I mean, I'm just trying to make that connection with walking as a metaphor, and within the Christian tradition, you have something similar to that.
Well, we have a number of references to walking, and the strongest one that comes to me is when, after Jesus' crucifixion and death, was on the road to Emmaus.
Road to Emmaus.
And the 2 gentlemen walking there
Right.
in Christ.
I'm really intrigued with the variety of people you had. And now we as hosts generally generate ideas and look for guests. So I wonder, Rich, what was the importance of doing that particular show for you?
Well, I had responded to an invitation, actually. They'd called to say that they were wanting to highlight this particular aspect of the faith community. And AMM is unique as far as setting up these venues in which people from Asian religions as well as Western religions can be in dialogue. So that was the occasion for it. I hadn't planned to ask that question, though, about walking as the metaphor that tied all that together until just sort of toward the end of the show. And I think other metaphors could have been chosen, but I was pleased with the way they responded to that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I love about Austin Metropolitan Ministries, and what you emphasize when we plan shows is to represent the diversity. I mean, in Austin, we brag about the diversity, but the spiritual diversity is equally as effective, so to speak. I mean, as much impact as all the musical diversity and all kinds of employment. I love the chance to tell people. I say that this program is to educate and or inspire when I'm telling people to watch the program.
And every once in a while to entertain.
That's right.
And hopefully that happens for those of us who are hosts, too.
Mm-hmm. Well, it does. I mean, I've just enjoy every show that we do. And you did one, Shane, that I want you to set us up for this one about weddings, this to illustrate sort of the pastoral side of Fire Purpose.
Yeah, although it might have bordered on entertainment as well, but the practical point, we were trying to let people know about the bridal show, which is a fundraiser for Austin Metropolitan Ministries. But we also wanted to be pastoral in letting people know about that show and have some guests from flowers to dress designers, because weddings are so wonderful and so equally stressful that we thought we should highlight a few of those practical aspects, and even had a guest here to model a wedding gown that was made by another guest.
Okay. Well, rather than just using our imaginations about what that might have been like, let's actually look at it.
I don't think we should wait much longer to show one of the dresses. And so actually we're going to go ahead and ask Dara to come out and stand just right in front of us so that folks at home can see. And I'll let Deborah, you take it away and describe.
Okay, this is a gown by Demetrios. It is a popular style, sleeveless with a scoop neck, empire waistline. The skirt is made of chiffon. The flowing fabric is very popular these days. It has glass beading on the bodice. She's wearing sheer gloves to sort of accent the sheerness of this gown. And Dara, if you can turn around and show the back. It's a beautiful scoop neck with a cowl. That's the drape on the back of the dress. There's also a detachable train that's very popular in gowns these days because they can wear the train down the aisle for their ceremony, but when they're at the reception, go ahead and turn around there, they're free to move about by taking that train off, and they can have more flexibility and mobility at their reception.
Right.
Beautiful gown, and she's got a headpiece on as well.
Thank you very much, Dara, for giving your time and showing a beautiful dress. What about the range of dresses? I hear a lot of anxiety as a minister, and I've performed several wedding services, and not to mention being in a few weddings before and after ministry. It's there's a lot of stress involved around weddings. That's my number one concern. So what can you say about stress from your end of the wedding preparation?
Well, I think in any aspect of planning a wedding, a bride should, if she has the luxury, shop as early as possible. Preferably 6 months out if she can. Also, to kind of make herself knowledgeable, she might read a few bridal magazines, take a look at styles that she likes, have some idea of what she's looking for. Take a trusted friend with you, someone whose opinion you value.
Sometimes we as hosts hear that people have actually watched the show. What kind of reactions did you get to that show on weddings?
People noticed it because since we had a person modeling the dress right there in front of us, it was nice to see some of just the practical things touched on in that program. I wish we could have spent a little more time talking about the emotional and even spiritual preparation for weddings, because we make it so easy in our society to get married that with the 51% divorce rate, we need to make it a little more difficult as far as spending time and letting people talk with the spiritual advisor, we hope. Because a lot of people treat churches like drive-through services, and I'd like 3 weddings and a funeral, for my wife, and a couple of baptisms in the meantime. So we need to do it justice. But it was fun doing that program.
It looks like.
Well, and I was glad that you raised the question from the standpoint of a pastor. You can recognize this is a stressful time, and maybe at a future show that we do on weddings, we could just zero in on that premarital counseling and all of the spiritual support that should actually, of course, take precedence over the flowers, but sometimes it doesn't. Maybe most times it doesn't. But we're going to come back in just a moment or two with other highlights of 1998. We'd like to have you stay with us, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Austin Faith Dialogue, where today we're having a retrospective look at 1998. Program highlights from Austin Faith Dialogue, and with me are co-hosts who are going to introduce themselves one more time.
Okay. I'm Sandy Wilder with Houston Tillotson College.
And my name is Shane Whistler. I'm the associate pastor at St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church.
And I don't think I introduced myself, Richard Thompson with Austin Metropolitan Ministries. I wanted to have a little bit of an anticipation of what's coming up next. This clip on hands-on housing kind of combines the social concerns, the fact that, you know, there is a housing need in our community like around the rest of the country that is met with this particular program of Austin Metropolitan Ministries. It's also a pastoral kind of thing. People in the church get others involved, and I like the fact that it meets a need of people as much to give as those who might be on the receiving end of it. And so let's see what happened in this particular program.
All right.
Us about the fact that this is really one of the most creative programs, I think, that AMM has done since its beginning. In fact, it kind of goes back to its beginning, doesn't it, Beth?
It does. It was begun in November of 1989 as a collaborative effort between Pat Flood, who's the executive director of Austin Metropolitan Ministries, and Rod Coleman, who's a pastor over at Shepherd of the Hills Christian Church.
Okay. 89 it started.
Mm-hmm.
And since that time, in the last 9 years, how many houses have been rehabbed?
We've rehabbed almost 500 homes using about 7,000 volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
Our last event was this spring where we rehabilitated 50 homes in a weekend using 1,200 volunteers.
Well, you know, those are statistics.
Mm-hmm.
But what we're going to look for are some stories that go with that and to give it the human touch. John, you're here to give us the human touch. You're the chair of this organization. Tell
Yes.
us about that.
Well, the human touch. I think one of the things that Hands-On Housing has to offer, of course, is relationship building. You mentioned the fact that we do build homes. Well, we also build relationships. And there is a partnership, I would say, between the client who owns the home and the volunteers who come to do the housing rehab. Very colorful characters that I can think of in my experience. I've been with Hands-On Housing 3 years. This past event, Julia Montoya, who lives in the Guadalupe neighborhood, who Tony knows very well, has lived in Austin since 1922, I believe, is it not? That many years, and a lifelong resident. And we were able to come out and put a new roof on her home. Of course, the people who had helped her were, we had a Methodist group, I believe, at that home, and like many other projects, their efforts between different congregations who come together to work. Methodist, Catholic, Protestant denominations, Catholic denominations.
So it's ecumenical, and you also have people who are not connected to religious communities.
Well, I'd say it's an interfaith effort. We did have Barsan Adam.
Okay.
Was involved in sponsoring a home this last event.
And Tony, you've working with the Austin Police Department. How did you happen to get connected with this particular enterprise?
Well, as I work in the East Austin neighborhood, trying to build neighborhoods and empower neighborhoods, as Hands-On Housing came over to work several years ago when I got involved with them, I saw the good work that they were doing, but my connection was to put them in contact with neighborhood associations, that they can empower neighborhood associations, and that people will know that you can go through the neighborhood association and get things done.
I see.
So this is just a great resource for the community to have Hands-On Housing come in to repair houses in the neighborhood. It helps the city also, taking off some of the pressure of them rehabbing a lot of houses and helping those people in need of repair.
We often get a chance to promote activities in the community that invite others to volunteer, and literally Hands-On Housing. People can be active and to meet people, go to neighborhoods that they would normally not have gotten a chance to do.
And wasn't there something in your church that...
Right, and with Hands-On Housing this year, a few of our members of the congregation, Hands-On Housing is a weekend event. But I found out 4 or 5 people in our congregation went 4 more weekends to a woman's home to continue to do work and just to visit with her. She was 80 years old, living by herself, and she was legally blind. And so they made a connection over, they helped paint and repair a door the first weekend, but they made a human connection that has lasted. So that's nice to be able to tell those things on this program. We have that chance. And you've hosted for many years, Rich. You've seen that happen over and over, the human connections that last beyond.
That's what you look for in every show that you do. And I think that this next one, I felt a particular connection on that, Sandy, the one on divorce recovery. You want to set us up for that?
I thought it was really important to not always do shows on nice, safe topics, but to occasionally take a look at places where people hurt, life transitions that are difficult, and look at the places where there are programs and people to help. And this particular program, run by the Divorce Recovery and Family Resources Center here in town, isn't specifically spiritually based, but yet it is. Because in a very real sense, this program helps other people hold you up, much as your community of faith does that same kind of thing for you. So in this show, we're talking about the importance of the divorce recovery process and program at this tough time in people's lives. And let's take a look at the conversation.
Let's do that.
And as we talk about this whole process of recovery from divorce, I'm struck by that title. Divorce is such a devastating experience. We've all three been through it. How did you come to name the program Divorce Recovery? Some folks might think this is the end of life.
Yeah, well, it's clearly not. It's a part of life, and as you point out, it's a difficult part. But I got involved in this work professionally through my own divorce experience and involvement in another recovery program, namely Beginning Experience, back in 1983. And from that experience as a consumer, I volunteered for several years in that program and then started what is now known as the Divorce Recovery Center in 1988.
So the center is an actual location with actual programs here in town, right?
Yes. Yes.
And talk a little bit about the programs it offers.
Well, I'm a clinical psychologist, so part of the programs are working with individuals, couples, and families in various aspects of their relationship life: pre-marriage, marriage, troubled marriage, divorce. And then in addition, I call that my day job, and my night job is running these seminars. The one that we've all been involved with is the When Your Relationship Ends. And that's a 30-hour program. It runs 3 hours one night a week for 10 weeks and covers the various stages of recovery as a process. This process takes months and years, not just weeks.
That's right. It's not 10 weeks and you're cured.
Not at all.
So Ann, what was it like for you first of all, as a participant, and then we'll get to your experience as a facilitator later. But first of all, as a participant, what was it like entering the church that first night for this divorce recovery experience?
Well, I did not want to go. I had left work late that day, and I think I was supposed to be at the church at 6:30 or 7. I remember calling my brother Tim on the way and saying, "Oh, Tim, I'm on the way to go to this, and I don't want to." And he just said, "Ann, you need to go." So I went. It was difficult to walk in, and I confess I had an attitude. But I just felt so down on everything at that time. It would have been hard. It was hard for me to go to church. It was hard for me to go to the grocery store because I saw people that I knew and I had to converse. And it was hard to do anything, but this was especially hard because I had to walk in and it was like confessing, I'm going through a divorce. And so I went that night and was glad at the end of the evening that I'd gone, and I knew I wanted to take the program.
Okay, we are back now, getting close to the end of our show. We have one more clip, but I think we need to just say one word of appreciation here that you want to mention.
Oh, absolutely. To the folks at KNVA, to the technical staff, and to the administration for being so generous with us this past year, always ready to work with us, donating their skills and airtime so that we can do what we do here in the community.
For 2 years they've done that now.
It's a good partnership.
It's a great opportunity. And also our Eric Leahy, one of our co-workers. He produces every week behind the scenes along with the staff at KNVA, so it's a great partnership.
And now, Rich, as we're talking about partnerships and staffing, you're having a change in your status, which probably the viewers need to know about.
Well, I have accepted an invitation to serve as interim pastor at the First Congregational Church in Houston, which, of course, being interim, it's indefinite as to how long I'll be there. But I suspect at least 6 or 8 months kind of thing. And I'm so grateful that you're here in place to continue the show, and that we've got a team that is well prepared to do it. And I want to thank you for doing that. And thank everyone to make it possible for me to have done Austin Faith Dialogue for 11 years.
And your chair will be waiting when you're back.
Good. Well, I'll come back maybe once a quarter and just touch base. We have one last segment here from something dealing with youth called Believe in Me that shows how we connect to the arts in the community. Let's take a quick look at that.
It is so beautiful to see, you know, sort of the creativity that comes out in this performance. It is a spiritual event.
All right.
When you just see these children and the way they're displaying all of their
Okay, well,
energy.
believing has to do with spirituality, doesn't it?
Sure does.
Okay, and we're going to touch on that in just a bit, but we need first to look at a video clip that you brought about how this shows itself. So let's, is this about the Austin one that we're going to see, or is this particular?
Well, this particular tape shows a little bit of our history and sort of sets up, you know, how we work through the course of the year and some of the process involved in succeeding in the end of the year event.
Okay, well, let's take a look at it then.
Okay.
We started this because of an awareness of what the arts can do to open your hearts and mind to possibilities of excellence.
Well, I took this job because I had worked with National Dance Institute, and they sort of sent me down here to work with Believe in Me.
Okay, you said you had a little connection with that.
That's right. I'm glad to see the program because we at Houston Tillotson have provided space for the troupe to rehearse in the past.
And
Good
Houston
to see 'em.
Tillotson has provided you as a guest or host or one of our hosts.
That's
And
right.
Shane Whistler, thank you, and St. Andrews for that. Thank you folks for watching. I'm Rich Thompson on Austin Faith Dialogue. And may peace be with you not only today, but throughout 1999.